It gives you something to work towards. So the idea behind this business planning is for us to, is motivation. Plus, it's also for us to simplify our goal setting. Right? You hear about, oh, let's set SMART goals, and let's do our goals and daily planning and daily schedule so that we have goals to achieve. But the goal is difficult to define unless you go through a process that actually gives you the reality of what you need to do, right? So I'm going to repeat this one more time just for the sake of the camera and for the sake of us as a reminder, right? Add up your personal expenses. So when you do this on your own, again, you'll get to finish this exercise. Add up your personal expenses. As Jamie pointed out, if you're factoring in both partners' expenses, just narrow this down to what you need. Because remember, your partner's income is also their own, right? They're also bringing money to the table, right? So if it's you covering the whole family lifestyle, then this is 100% your personal expenses. Well, with the whole family expenses, right? So your personal expenses are your own, or so that you divide the income. This is what you need to bring as far as the income is concerned. Once you've added up with your personal expenses from page 8 or your worksheet, you write it down here. Your business expenses is strictly just to run your business, your business card, your business cell phone, your gifts, your networking events you attend, your memberships, different clubs, if you expense it, right? Everything you need to run your business, TREB, RIA, RICO fees, RICO fines, if you pay RICO fines, and it's part of your business model, right? Flyers, postcards, direct mail, internet spending, all of that stuff goes into here. You get your business expenses. Net income needed after tax. So again, as a reminder, this is an after-tax figure. So if it costs me 100 personal, 50,000 for business, that's 150,000. That's what I need after taxes have been paid. So this number 4 here, the multiplier, depending on your level of income, could be 1.3, 1.35, 1.4. It multiplies that number so that you get a gross commission goal that allows you to pay your tax, and then after that you get to pay your personal and business without dipping into government's money, right? And remember, don't spend your HST either, right? How many do you spend your HST?
That's crazy.
A little
Crazy?
bit. Tiny bit.
Nobody lives on the edge and say, hey,
Joking.
just a little bit, no? Number 5, gross commission income needed to fund your lifestyle. That's what you need to make on a gross basis next year so that you're able to cover CRA, which is your business partner. You pay your personal and you pay your business. Does it make sense? So in our example, everybody's hand is in your, yeah, exactly. 100 plus 1 plus 50, in my example, 100 plus 50, right, equals 150, times 1.3 equals 195. I need to make 195, this is an example, which falls into 100% club, right? So if your goal is you need to make 250 and up, you're going to be aiming for a platinum club, right? Diamond is $1 million and above, right? Double diamond is $2 million and above. Right? Why it's good to have that goal is because it gives you a visual representation of what you need to achieve in order for you to be able to earn that gross income that you need. Right? So if your goal is, I need to hit Platinum Club, when we do our personal coaching sessions, you're going to tell me, John, I need to hit Platinum Club. I need to hit Diamond or Double Diamond. Right? And then I'm going to be able to hold you accountable to the activities you need to fulfill in order for you to achieve that goal. Right? This is called very specific SMART goals, right? Because you have an exact goal that you need to reach based on actual numbers. And for some of you, or for many of you, it's a wake-up call, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I did not have a personal budget for many years, and then once you do, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not making enough money, right? Or some of you might find that you're making too much. Give it to some of us who aren't, right? Does anybody have any questions with regards to that? No? Okay, let's move on then. Once you have your gross income number, right, and you've identified the award level that you need, turn to page 13, and this is what we're going to finish off with today. Actually, we're going to have 13 and 14 today. So page number 13 is your annual financial goal. Write down your lifestyle number again, right? This is page 12. Remember, your lifestyle number is now that gross income, gross. Right? Personal, business, plus taxes. So in my example, it's 195. Write that down. Again, if you haven't had a chance to finish, that's okay. Don't sweat it. Estimate that number you need. And it's always better to overestimate what you need than underestimate. So let's just round my number up to 200, just for example, and simplicity's sake. Does that make sense? Yeah? What was your average commission per side last year? So number 2, what was your average commission side per commission per side last year. If on average you sold an $800,000 house last year, the average commission, let's say it's 2.5%, just as an example. What is the commission amount? Everybody should know this like that. You all there you go, 20,000, right? So I would write there 20,000. Does everybody get that example?
No.
No? Okay. Average commission side per year helps you calculate how many deals you're going to need to do, right? So if on average, if the average house you sold last year in all of your deals falls at 800,000, right? You sold $1 million house, you sold a $600,000 house, you sold an $800,000 house. It falls at 800 the average when you average all that out, right? That means your average house is 800,000. What's the average commission you'd make? 800,000 times 2.5% equals 20,000.
So you're talking gross with that?
This is gross. This is gross.
Okay.
If you
Wait,
sold it,
Doctor,
yes.
so it says if you're new to the business, use 75% of the average commission side for your office. What is that?
What question are you
I
on?
mean, at the bottom it says tip.
Child support, alimony.
If you're new to business.
Okay. If you're new to the business and you don't have, so we're still working on this year's numbers. So we're very early on in terms of our own business planning
Yeah.
here, but we don't have our average number yet.
But what's
So
the
if you haven't sold any houses, if you're completely brand new, what would be a conservative amount to say as far as commission? For those of you who are experienced in the field, 15,000, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's
10,000,
15.
10, 15. Does everybody agree? So let's use 15. If you're brand new, put 15,000, which is a $600,000 house, Jordan.
Oh, after expenses.
2.5 times 600,000, 2.5%.
Where are you finding a $600,000 house? I'll take two, Rich.
Condo, if your average condo.
Where are you finding a $600,000
In the
condo?
Just for the sake of example, right? These numbers are not fixed or set in stone. You can change it. Number 3, number of closed transactions needed next year. So you take number 1 divided by number 2. So in my example, 200,000 gross income divided by 20,000 average commission. How many deals do I need? 200,000 divided by 20,000. 10 deals. So that's what I would write in number 3. Again, this is all part of your goal set. You need to know how many transactions you need, and you're going to figure out how many contacts you need to make, right? Number 4, percent of sides that you plan to be listings. What percentage of it do you want to be as listings? Is it 50-50? Is it split evenly? Is it 70% buyers, so 30% would be your listings?
What if you don't want any listings?
0%.
What if you don't want any buyers?
And you're going to find another job.
No, that's, I didn't say it correctly. What if you only want
Oh, okay.
listings?
100%. You put 100%.
Didn't say it right.
But I think
That's
the
okay.
right answer is you should aim for all of this income to be your listings.
Right, or
And
majority.
hopefully you will get,
The reality is we're going to fall around 65 to 70% buyer. If you're not a strong listing agent, meaning you don't have an established farm or a system.
There's nothing wrong with
Right.
buyers
There's
though.
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
It's just
wrong
asking
with
you.
that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with buyers.
No, we're just,
2.5, no headaches, get
we're
in,
just
get
joking
out.
around.
Oh, yeah.
This is an easier market for buyers in a sense that you're not dealing with multiple offers with 20, 30 offers.
So,
I've
so if like you don't want any listings,
Yes.
then you would put 000 all the way down until you get to something about buyers.
Mhm.
So every single one of your deals needs to be buyers.
100%.
If you're a buyer.
So the whole idea behind this is out of those 10, in my example, if I want 100% listing, I would need 10 deals, right? As listing. And then I need to use my conversion, just a sneak peek of what's to come. I need to use my conversion rates to come up with how many opportunities to get a listing I need. Does that make sense? If you want 100% buyers, which is fine, right?
But if you want listings, majority of listings,
Mhm.
so what are you saying? I'm sorry, I missed it. So let's
It's
say
just
I
about
want
coming
to-
up with the conversion number. So let's just take it step by step, right?
All right.
In my example, I'm going to use 50-50. Is that fair? Right? So out of those 10 deals, 5 I need to be listing sides, 5 I need to be buyer sides, right? Let's just look at listings as an example. Let's assume you want 50% listings, right? Number 6, number of listings taken needed for goal. If you need 5 listings, will you go out on 5 listing appointments and get 5 listings? No? Hopefully, right? If you're 100% on bat like Joe, he hits everything home run, right? But if you don't, let's say for example, you close only 70%. Okay, so let's say for example, you go on X number of appointments, but you only close 70%. Does everybody get my, right? 3 out of 10 listing appointments, you get 7 listings, 3 don't go with you, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so if my example is 5 and I only close 70%, I would take 5 divided by 0.7, so mathematically, that says I'm only going to close 70%, therefore 5 is that 70%. I need 7 listing appointments to go on in the coming year, which is pretty achievable, right?
You mean, that's it?
This is in my example.
Oh, okay.
Now if I only close 20%, and I need 5 listings, 5 divided by 0.2, I need to go on 25 listing appointments.
Right.
That's if I'm really bad, or if I'm doing straight cold listing prospecting. Either one is okay. We have to improve though. If you're bad at closing appointments if you're bad at closing listings at an appointment, that's something we need to work on, right? But if your closing rate is low because of the fact that it's cold listings you're after, right? You got to look for a better source for you to get it. Does that make sense? Same with the number of selling sides, which is the buyers, right? Basically what this number means, and if you're having a bit of trouble with it, come and see me. What this is saying is that you're not going to be 100% perfect, right? You're not going to take 10 buyers out and 10 of them will buy with you. All of us know this, right? Unless you're at 100%. I don't know if you've been doing this for 25 years and every single buyer has bought from you and every single seller has sold. Does that happen? No. So you're going to come up with that percentage. How? When you track your numbers this coming year, you're going to have to determine how many listing appointments did I go to, how many actual listings did I get, and how many of them actually closed, right? So that's a closing rate, right? So if, again, with your buyer side, if you only close 70% of the buyers, and you need 5 buyer sales, you actually need 7 buyer appointments, right? If you have any questions about that, I'll stick around.
Just your numbers is not quite accurate, but it's okay.
Why?
7, you don't need, to get 5 buyers, you need to see 7 people.
Is that optimistic?
Very much.
Okay, so then divided by 0.5.
No, I think what he's saying is you have to work with 7 buyers, active buyers.
To close 5
To
deals.
close 5. Like active, like
real
you're actually out there
buyers.
showing them like
You
real
have signed
qualified.
papers, yeah, qualified.
So you have 7 buyers,
But
Yeah,
like
2 of them
qualified.
don't close.
Oh,
Or, sorry, 2 of them don't buy, 1 doesn't end up qualifying, and 1 just changes their mind.
Yeah,
Right?
that's realistic.
5 end up closing. I mean, 70% is very generous. You're very good if you're
Yeah.
closing 70%, is what I'm saying. So what Ozzy's saying, no, this is a very valid point. What she's saying is that that's very optimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe we're at 50%. Maybe we need to work with 10 buyers under contract to close 5 deals, because 5 of them won't close. 2 won't get approved. 1 moves out of the country and says forget it. 1 ends up buying through their relative. The other one just doesn't decide to buy anymore, right? So I'm just giving an example. Your number is based on, like, for example, Ozzy, you know how many buyers ended up buying from you versus how many of them started to work with you. You take that percentage, and that's what you plan with moving forward. It's a very valid point, and everybody has to listen to that. 70% is very. I use it in my example because, you know, when I was actively trading, I only worked with Sphere.
Yeah, but
And
also
past-
it's
and-
more
and
for
people I knew, exactly.
experienced agents.
So then transposing it just very briefly
Yes.
to listings.
Yes,
Okay, so it's
Yes.
the same thing,
same idea.
same
Right?
idea.
Take the number of listings you've taken this year. How many of them actually sold and closed? So let's say you took 10 listings this year and you only sold 5. That's a 50%.
Right.
So if your goal for next year is 5 again, right? You're at 50%. You got to get 10 listings. So we're going to finish off with this. The reason why this is important is page 10, right? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. My numbers are wrong. 14. Thank you, Kareem. Page 14. You know what? Let's inflate my example because I love Ozzy's point that, you know, it's too optimistic. You need to work a little bit harder than that, right? So instead of, if I want to close 5 listings, I need 10 actual listings. If I want to close 5 buyers, I need 10 actual buyers.
Right.
What you need now is total clients needed to reach your goal. You need 10 and 10, which is 20. I need 20 clients to hit my 10 deals at a 50% closing rate, right? Now, this is where this is important and why we want to finish off with this point. How many contacts do you currently make a day? 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many contacts?
So hard
Right?
to.
Nobody
track
wants to
that
answer.
exactly.
But what do you define as contact? Just people you speak to?
Let's say you're door knocking, you knock,
So
you talk to
varies.
somebody.
So an
That's a
average,
contact.
That's a
Average.
contract?
Yes. How many contacts do you make a day?
5
5?
on average.
How many make 0? How many of you do 0 contacts a day? Jordan, great. How many of you do 1? At least 1. Let's be truthful. This
I
is
do 3
a
to
truth
5.
exercise,
I try to hit.
right? How many of you do 20 contacts a day?
That's
If you're doing door knocking or whatever. it happens to
Discount 20.
be, right? 30. Okay. Why this is important, right? If you need 10, what did we say? 10 deals, right? Did we say 10 deals? I
20
need
contacts.
to work with 20. I need to work with 20 clients to get 10 deals, right? How many contacts do I need to get a deal? How many contacts do you need before you actually get a deal done? If it's cold, you might need 100, let's say. 100 people to talk to as a contact, to make contact with, to make one deal, right? And remember, one of these deals, out of these deals, 50% of them may not even close. So that's the example we're getting at, right? So, exactly. You start to see how much work you really need to do in this business, right? So I get a lot of our agents coming to me and they're frustrated. You know, it's been a few months, nothing has happened yet. What is the first thing I usually ask? For those of you who have come to me, and let's just be very straightforward with it.
How many people
Right.
do you talk to a day?
What are you actually doing to make contacts per day? Because that's all this is. There's nothing more to this business, right? Unless one of you has a magic pill or some sort of magic solution. Jordan has one. It's in his office. Go and check it out.
$20 each.
Really neat, right?
So,
This business is a contact sport. That's all it is. If you're not making any sales, it's because you're not having any conversations with people, right? Who are looking to buy or sell real estate. That's all it is. Forget about leases. Leases, you'll get leases anyway, right? There's tons of leases out there.
so are we gonna get into how many contacts we need
Well,
in order to?
That's what we need. That's what
like
we're doing right
100
now.
contacts in order to
That's
make
what we're doing right now. So
10
watch.
appointments or something?
Watch. Typically, for those of you who are experienced in the room, typically how many contacts do you need to get a client?
35.
35? Well, this one says 35. But in your example,
need-
50, 100?
Yeah, I need more.
You need 100? Let's just, you know what? I've already taken you this far into reality. Let's just use a number like 100.
Yeah,
How about that?
100.
So let's rewind. Let's rewind with what we built so far. In my example,
Online leads, yeah.
it's 100.
Yeah.
Let's just overshoot what we need to do. In my example, I wanted to make $200,000 gross income,
Right,
which pays my taxes, which pays my personal lifestyle number and my business lifestyle number.
right,
200,000 income. My average commission was what? 20,000.
right.
That means I need to do how many transactions? 10, right? Out of those 10 transactions that do close, how many actual people do I need to have working with for me to close those 10? We were talking about 50% now, right? So that means I need 20. I need 20. Is everybody following so far?
Yeah.
20, and here's the jaw-dropping moment, and I have it all on film. Let me see if I'm rolling. Right? Okay. So again, I need to be working with 20 people in 2020 to close 10 deals, and get paid on 10 deals, to make my $200,000 if I'm making 20 grand a pop. If I need to talk to 100 people, right? So this is where we have to pay attention. If I need to talk to 100 people to be working with one client, I need to be working with 20 clients to close 10 deals. How many people do I need to speak with in 2020? 2,000
Do you
people.
only work weekdays or do you work weekends?
How many days do you want to work? How many days do you want to work in 2020?
8 days a week.
8 days a week?
8 days.
Okay. How about 10 days a week? Okay, who wants to work 10 days a week? Realistically, how many days do we want to work?
That's 10 people.
5 days? Let's say 5.
10 people a day.
Let's say 5. How many weeks do you want to work in 2020?
48.
That's every week.
48?
48.
4 weeks
That's
off?
fair.
It's 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody keep track of that. Somebody remember 2,000 contacts. 5 times how many weeks? 48?
48.
That's 240 days, right? 2,000 contacts over 240 days. How many contacts a day?
That's 8.
You're a genius, you're a mathematical genius. 8 contacts, 8.3 contacts, so let's call it 9. Let's call it 10. Okay?
Yeah.
10 contacts a day. So the beautiful thing about our business plan, why I really love it, is because it's black and, this is not black and white, but it's black and white. Black and white in the sense that you're either gonna do your work or
Not.
you're not gonna do your work.
Comprehension is black and
Does that make sense? Every little part of this, I'm happy to work with you. I'll sit down with you for hours looking at every single part of it. And I'm happy to do that. I'm not being sarcastic. This is what I do. For those of you who meet with me on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, we sit down and this is all we do, right? But once you have this contact goal for next year, we're going to start a meeting in a minute. Once you have your contact goal this year, the reason why I call this full color business plan black and white is because either you've made your contacts in one way or another, or you didn't. What do I mean by that? If you're doing passive marketing and everything is reliant upon calls coming in, a call coming in counts as a contact as long as you converse. So somebody calls in, asks about a condo, it's an online lead, you converse, that's a contact. You need 10 of those a day. So for those of you who do not want to go door knocking, especially right now in the cold, you're going to have the money to spend to be able to buy 10 contacts a day calling you, right? If you don't have that, they call it sweat equity versus check equity. You've heard of this term. If you don't have the check equity, you're going to have to spend the sweat equity. Meaning to make those 10 contacts, you pick up the phone. You call your sphere of influence. Let's say, for example, your past clients only amount to 150. After 15 days of calling, you've already called those 10 contacts, right? 10 times 15, 150. So now where do you go? This is where a lot of, let's face it, this is where a lot of us end up failing now. We've relied so much on just having this pool of 150, and you'll get some business out of them, sure, but we're not growing beyond that. I only use an example of making $200,000 a year. Think about it. It's a lot of money. It's already above income. For some of you have higher goals, which is great, which is perfect. You want to go on your vacations. You want to be able to afford the lifestyles you live, right? A lot of you are very top producers here, and your work reflects the amount of money you make and the kind of business that you build, which is great. For those of us who are having a challenge, or for those of us who want to expand this business, it still comes down to just the number of contacts you make. Right? Sometimes we get agents coming to us with that look in their eyes, expecting us to come up with this magical box that Jordan has in his office, not mine. And it's going to tell you, here, this is your secret formula to generating 200,000 or 500,000 without having to do work. It doesn't exist. Some of you have come from other brokerages, right, to come to our training and see what we do. Some of you end up, like, let's face it, some of our agents leave to go to other brokerages in seeking of that answer. Some of them go to Zolo, and I'll show you the average income of a Zolo agent if you want to see that, or a Search Realty or property. Nothing wrong with these companies. But the first thing we've got to really do is look into ourselves and ask ourselves, are we making the contacts that we're supposed to be making to sustain the business we need? Or are we being distracted? And again, life happens. Lots of things in life happen. You know, sometimes it's sickness, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's financial. So as much as I want to paint an ideal picture and tell you, yes, everything's going to be fine, you'll make this contact, there will be things that throw you off, and that's part of it. But if it's not those things that are throwing you off, but it's yourself, you've got to identify what is the challenge that I'm facing, what's preventing me from building up this system where I'm making these 10 or 20 contacts a day. Right? Because that's where it really comes down to. You can't come to me and say, John, your help, I'm not making any money. Tell me what to do. I'm going to tell you, pull up your 2020 business plan and turn to page 14. What is your contact target? Are you hitting that contact target every single day? No, why not? I don't have a daily schedule. Okay, let's make one. I don't have a prospecting plan. Okay, let's make one. I don't want to go door knocking. Okay, let's find something you want to do. There's a solution to everything, but it starts with this business plan. Once you've identified the number of contacts you need, whether inbound or outbound, everything else will be built upon the foundation of this. So next week, what we're going to do, we're going to start our office meeting now. For those of you who have joined us today, page 15, for those of you who haven't, come get your business plan from me. Page 15 is your source of business. So your homework for next week's session is I want you to identify where your business came from. Did it come from networking, lead street, personal websites, online leads, sign calls, door knocking, open houses, direct mail, FISBOs, referrals, realtor referrals? For those of you coming in next week, I want you to fill this page out in full because our part 2 session of this business plan is helping you identify what are the activities you need to do to make those 10 contacts, to make those 20 contacts. So that when you come coaching with me, you're not going to be looking at me saying, John, your help. Right? I have no idea what's going on. Because I'm going to ask you, what's your contact goal? And by the end of next week, what am I going to ask you? What are the channels that you're using to build your business? And are you properly executing them? And then with each of these, the beautiful thing about Hallmark training is there's no shortage of it. Every single 13 channels that we talked about earlier, there's a training session for every single one of those. So there's never going to be an excuse, oh, I don't know how to door knock. I don't know how to do an open house. I don't know how to pick up the phone and call Inspires and be RICO compliant. You know what I mean? Right? So what I'm excited about is that all of you are very ambitious. 2020 is going to be a fantastic year. I mean, look at this one. 2020 is going to be a fantastic year. The thing is, we need to do what? We need to work. That's all it is. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2020 business planning continues. Session 2 is next week, next Thursday, and I hope the room gets this full. Let's jump right into our office meeting.
Oh, this is the 9:30.
9:30.
Phew, I'm not late.
Any questions? For those of you who are here, any questions?
Today.
We'll make those 20 contacts. Anybody have any questions? No? Shall we start our office meeting? Great. It's good to see
You
everything.
take it.
Let me see, we're still filming or what? Let's finish this.